What's going on, workforce? Brian and Chris here, and we're sitting down today to talk about Lost Ark. It just finally released as a part of early access, and it officially launches free for everybody on the 11th. Both Chris and I have been doing a deep dive into the game. Chris is definitely beating me on the Omni 1 race. I don't know, Omni 60 race in this regards. But Chris, why don't you tell people about how far you've come into the game so far, what your initial impressions are, and we're going to kind of talk about like just this epic story.
So I'm halfway through the game, ballpark is would be my estimate. I am taking my time and like listening to the story some. The writing reminds me of how I feel about MMOs and why you can play 10 MMOs and go into one and go, story is really optional in these. Like, it's a lot of like, I desperately need water or I'll die. I've been laying here for weeks without water. And you're like, where's the water?
My cart is on fire. Please douse the flames.
It's here. And you're like, oh, you want this water? You saved my life. I've laid here for 14 days while the water was within reach. And so
then
like,
if you hang out long enough, somebody runs up behind him. I need water desperately.
And
just
so
gave
like,
you water,
like
buddy.
At one point they said like, you know, defend the NPC. And so I just left the last monster at like 17 health to just see what, and like the NPC is like swinging big swords and casting spells and like it's taking like one life. And then at the end, like the cutscene's like, I couldn't have done it without both of you. It's like, both of us? Both of us?
For anybody who's new here, though, like just note that it sounds like Chris might not be enjoying the game, but overall, like I think we're having a lot of fun with it.
I'm having a lot of fun. So what I really like is everything else. I appreciate the little details, like when you kill something like that has a weapon and you need a weapon for a quest, it always drops a weapon. When you kill birds for feathers, instead of saying like, get me 10 feathers, so go kill 67 birds, they're like, get us 100 feathers, and that's going to take you like 6 birds. And like there's something that feels more world building about that. And so I think that's why the writing doesn't speak to me, is because the world actually feels so much more immersive. The number of collections, the number of tabs, like there's just tabs on tabs on tabs opening. Mm-hmm. The first 15 levels or so feel like the first 15 levels of like a Diablo, where you're basically questing alone. If you have to fight a big baddie, you can solo it. If other people are there, that's cool too. You don't really have, everything just kind of dies. Like if the doorbell rings and you're mid combat, just go get it. It's fine. And so like, it does feel like that. Most MMOs feel like that at the beginning.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, all at once, like at 19, I jumped into like 10 Venn diagrams of bad and it killed me. And I was like, oh, good. Like good.
Yeah.
And so like, it feels like now, like if I'm incredibly stupid, I can die. And I have a feeling that's going to scale to where like I have to be less and less stupid to end up dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the game feels like, in the way I've kind of talked about it, like with the community so far that we've been playing, and we're working on expanding the Work to Game Guild. So for anybody who's been asking to join,
not enough room for me.
There's not even enough room for Chris right now. Like we got it started and we like filled up. So it's going to be something where it's like at this moment until we can level up the guild, it's going to be like if you're actively playing, then help us level, because as we level it up, we open up more slots. And I was like, that's an interesting mechanic. It's like, all right, we need the sweaties in first. We need the sweaties in here to lay the foundation, and then we can expand it to anybody else who just wants to have that social group. So be a part of the Discord if you guys are looking for somebody to play with. But I really appreciate it feels like the game itself is kind of set up for like a 15-hour get to cap experience. It's not necessarily trying to beat you down. Like its whole goal is the story is seeming like a tutorial in and of itself, where the real like, oh, now you're into chaos, now you're into these towers, now you're into these raids, now you're into shipbuilding. It's like, yeah, guys, we have this insane game that we know that we don't want you to be defeated at 50 or at 60. So I feel like the pacing so far has been pretty snappy, and I feel like especially coming from the Korean version, I really enjoy the localization. Like, yes, it's definitely something where it's like, yeah, that's kind of MMO-ist. It's like, oh no, it's like, okay, like that's cool, moving on. So I haven't yet got too invested, but there are definitely some key character moments that I'm like, this is somebody that's obviously, like when you play 14 to kind of compare it, this is one of those banner quest marks that it's like, okay, whenever some of these certain characters start showing up, I'm like, okay, I'm paying more attention. And then typically just kind of moving my way through, oh, we got to find a cure for the plague. Oh, the plague is creating zombies. Like, okay, that's just things to do into an experience, in and of itself. And I just think the first thing that I take away from the game, because like obviously I've enjoyed the game before I had the ability to play it here officially in the West. And now that I feel like, you know, it's better, because I was always afraid in Korea that my character, they'd find out that I was an American and they just rip away my account. And so it was like, well, we're going to just tread lightly here, just not going to talk to anybody. But now it's a lot more social, a lot of things going on. And that ends up being something that I always enjoy, seeing people in the open world. And then tying that into, though, is that when we see the sheer numbers right now with a paywall, 500 million.
Concurrent.
Yeah, concurrent.
500,000 concurrent.
Right. And so, so 500,000 concurrent is the current pace. And I'm curious to see if that is just monumentally even bigger come Friday. Like, what do you think?
I mean, part of it is like a lot of people just want to try the game. They just want to test it. And so at a 10-hour grind, once they get out the other end of the 10-hour grind, they're going to pick 2 or 3 things they want to do. They're going to do those things, and they're going to go play something else. Like, we've got Elden Ring around the corner. We've got Guild Wars with an expansion around the corner. Yeah. We've got the Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster coming on the 23rd. There's going to be a bunch of people that say it's a failed game when 2 weeks from now that number is 100,000. Because it's going to be 1 million this weekend, and they're like, how could they not retain constant? Yeah. Because they don't have to. It's 10 hours to cap, and you're done. 20 if you're taking your time. It hasn't been a big deal. There's a lot of fun little things. The world bosses are nice. I think it's all the little things that make this worth at least trying. The idea that when you have a system that's convoluted, take like Final Fantasy Squadrons, where or take like some of the World of Warcraft like garrison systems, where like the moment they're not current, people forget how they work, and then some friend comes in and says, "Hey, it says I need to do this. How do I do it?" And you go, "I don't know." And it's like, "Oh, well, don't you have to do it?" No, mine's already done from like 5 years ago. And then it's required for something, or it's helpful for something or something like that. And you don't remember how it works. Well, in this game, there's a little guide button up there, and there's like a little like Ginger Prime video that you just like link, and it's like having Gamerscape baked into Final Fantasy 14. It's incredible. And like Guild Wars has this kind of where I click the button and it like pulls a browser up. No. Embedded video right in the game. It is really graceful at the small stuff. There's all this little collections going on, these world bosses going on, this like adventure tome through the areas where like the story is not, in my opinion, the reason to play this. Like, and I was listening to a Preach Gaming video the other day, and he talked about voice versus non-voice cutscenes.
Okay.
And I've always viewed it as you should voice the amount that you can pay for. So like Guild Wars has so much voice that like you're standing in town and you have to like go turn your speakers off on your computer because there's just people having a conversation.
Right.
Like it's incredibly voiced. The other side of that is like Final Fantasy has so much lore they can't get to all of it. And he was talking about Final Fantasy 14 specifically, and how if you can't voice act all of it, there is something unique to gaming versus like Netflix where everything's voiced. Right. Another medium, right? Or like a book where nothing's voiced. There is something unique to gaming where you get to pick and choose the significant moments. So the fully voiced cutscenes in here really do link, and everything in between that's like partially voiced really is like, I haven't been able to get past that pig for 5 weeks and my family's starving to death. And you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to kill the pig. And they're like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. We guess we could have killed the pig. And so like, and you're like, well, that was a wasted quest. Well, that's a non-voiced quest. So like, get over it. And like the voice scenes feel much more impactful and much more synced up with each other.
What I've seen a lot of different games do that I've actually started to appreciate in that regard, this is like Octopath Traveler, this is Lost Ark, this is several of these games where like maybe they'll even add a little bit of flavor to what the text line is. Like, you don't say. And then it's like, here's the message. And that small little beat of a note ends up just adding a lot of context even more to the overall than the more detailed dialogue. And I really appreciated that Octopath Traveler did that. I believe that Triangle Strategy is going to do that as well, which is by the same team. I honestly, when I just look at, the sheer numbers and the sheer people playing it and the hype that this game has, it's so interesting that it's had a positive impact on Path of Exile. Like, you go look at the Steam charts and it's like, hey, ARPGs are back, let's go. And I think what people are going to discover with Lost Ark, whether it ends up being the game for them, the game they want to invest in and build a community in, or just a game to visit, I think essentially it's going to look at, say, hey, like maybe you don't like the MMORPG because it is not a Diablo. It is not a Path of Exile. It is an MMO, and you get to discover more of that MMO, like that pieces of content. The more you kind of chip away at it, it doesn't initially start off like, hey, go kill 1,000 enemies just to hit to level 2. It's like, no. We're gonna just streamline you into this, and then all of a sudden you're gonna get to the end of it and be like, wait a minute, this is an MMO? What? Like, I don't like MMOs. Are you sure about that?
Yeah. I mean, Diablo 2 is talking about they're going to add maybe possibly an Act 6 is what's rumored. And so like maybe coming off this, people go, okay, this just made me hungry for, like when you did Eureka in 14, it made you hungry for 11.
Exactly.
So like it's why it's a great example of a genre, the whole genre coming up. I think it's a great representation of ARPG so far. My concern was, will the combat feel good? The combat feels meaty, it feels good. The combat in like Diablo 3 feels marginally similar. And somewhere between Diablo 2 and 3 for me is, and so like those are two great ARPG combat systems, and I really enjoy it. Where I was concerned was the monetization, and so obviously right now, as of this filming, everybody has paid at least $15 because we were in Founders Pack time, but we are filming this the day before it goes live to everybody, and we're gonna have Twitch drops over on stream, and so there's gonna be a lot of free people, and like already in chat there's people talking about monetization stuff, and so I was really concerned. And as you look through the monetization pack, it's hard to tell what you're really buying. First of all, I don't like that there's multiple currencies. That always feels manipulative when you're like laundering a currency into a currency into a currency into a currency. It's like, oh, you're just trying to get me where I don't remember how many dollars that is. So it definitely feels a little bit like that to me. But then I was worried that the Founders Packs were going to come out of the gate with this huge advantage besides the 3-day head start. And they aren't. Like 50,000 silver is nothing. Some extra resurrect things, not a big deal. Like so far everything it's given you, gear has not been an issue. So like a lot of the things it's giving you haven't really been groundbreaking. So I really appreciate at least the NA monetization. Now it sounds like they're trying to set up 62 different storefronts so that every region in the world that they bring online can be individually targeted, because like people are telling me like, oh, well, you read that and that's how that's going to affect Russia, and oh no, that's going to affect EU. And so like I have no idea what's going on with monetization, but I can tell you that the NA version I'm playing does not feel as aggressive as I expected, compared to like Halo Infinite, where I was asked for money on day one.
That's a good point. One of the things that's really interesting, and I said this in my video today, because talking about, I actually got the PlayStation controllers to work. Guys, if you're interested, you need help with controller setup, I got you covered over on Ginger Prime. But one of the things I've said is that Amazon has a very unique opportunity. They've legitimately changed the monetization of Lost Ark for more Western markets. So you don't have to feed your pets, currency so that they do the thing that you want them to do. Like, it should feel less aggressive, right? That's why I always prefer a buy-to-play model, ultimately, because if nothing else, at least the developer gets instant cash up front, as opposed to like we have to try and offset certain things a la PSO2, which I adore PSO2, but the inventory in and of itself is like, you really should spend $40 on PSO2 if you want to have a decent experience. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting inventory boss all day long. But when I look at this, I say they actually have a real unique opportunity to help establish and build more trust that actually has a positive impact on New World and whatever else they have next. With these two big MMOs, we're talking record breaking, and people like to meme on New World, but ultimately the game still commands over 100,000 people playing it every week. It continues to bring in new players and returning players, and it's going to be about content. That's the rule of thumb. If you follow 14 and you think New World's in trouble, like, I would like to introduce you to Final Fantasy 14 for the first time. Like, Yoshi P really did understand the market, and so when I look at that, I go, if they screw up Lost Ark, like, it doesn't bode well for New World, because they are still a company trying to build trust among gamers. The best way you build trust is you don't be stupid. you don't try and do a cash grab, etc. Because ultimately then it's like, oh yeah, I remember when Amazon was just doing cash grab games, trying to get all your money. What you got to do is you got to establish trust, and then you can go release your mobile cash grab games a la every other company. So it's like we give Amazon a lot of grief right now, because we don't know AGS. But with Lost Ark and how smooth that launch was, I think the issues actually were more with Steam yesterday, trying to get that to download outside of them. I honestly think like this is another
It's
positive
just too
advertisement. I think this is another positive advertisement for AWS. Like this is like, oh yeah, like we can scale. We are Amazon. Like we have this down, and we've launched 2 massive MMORPGs, and they've
for
set the
anybody
bar.
for anybody looking to get into it this weekend, you download the game, and that is one big 50 gig file, and then there's another 70 gig of compressed data that I guess is on your machine, is how I understand it. But you need the extractor, and that I don't know if that was done to avoid data mining or what the plan was on a game that's already out. Like I don't know what it
It's already
was,
out. Yeah.
but on Steam I had to download the extractor, which is like a 1 megabit file. Like I need the file that could have fit on a floppy disk sent to me, and that did not launch until go time. And then all 15 million of us clicked give me the 1 meg file at the same time, and it didn't. It just said I can't do that. And so like for anybody this weekend, just know like it does, once it gets through, the game is run great. It's a little slow to load when it first gets up, but I think it runs really great on my machine. I have an NVIDIA 3080 and a Ryzen 7. I'm running everything at ultra high. Really no issues whatsoever.
Yeah, it's been a phenomenal experience, and then obviously like the conversation will continue as the game develops. As that because we were in chat last night, and someone's like, somebody was like literally saying, I don't have a problem with the store. I don't have a problem with what they have in the store. I feel like everything's really good, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I think essentially, if that other shoe drops, it hurts the Amazon portfolio, which right now is consisting of 2 games. However, I think essentially with the fact that they've launched these 2 games in the last 6 months, if you're not taking Amazon games seriously, like you're going to be in for a real big shock when they make their next move. And then honestly, like I just keep thinking about it. I go, I wonder if they're just going to sit down and say, all right, we've had these successes. How do we get more wins? And it's like, okay, they're going to have to probably acquire some companies, because that's really like it takes a long time to build IP, which they have one that they're building New World. Lost Ark is developed, they're publishing it, and then essentially they're going to be like, okay, that's good. Let's go ahead and let's keep feeding people into this Prime aspect. So if you guys are Prime, you can get free stuff for Lost Ark. Just go and just make sure you get your claims, for that, and get those rewards, etc. Because why the heck not? It's available. Chris, you got any final thoughts before we wrap up this video?
No, I'm impressed. It feels weird that like as much as I've enjoyed Halo, I sit here and ask for a ranked Slayer mode, and they're like, oh, well, you did the subscription, did you also buy this? Like it just like they're asking me for more money, and like you think of Amazon as a company that's been very good at making money, and I have to say that New World and this both don't feel predatory at all. I've gone in cautious with both. I keep expecting like, okay, and here comes the loot boxes that open up on your screen every 2 minutes. Like I keep expecting it to do what some of the mobile games I play do, and it hasn't. I've really enjoyed this. I think it's worth playing for free if you want an action RPG and you don't want another round of Diablo and you don't want another round of Path of Exile. It's free on the 11th. Hop in, play it until you hate it, and then stop. What an easy way to enjoy ARPGs.
And I'll be on some Lost Ark on Friday, which will give you some Twitch drops if you guys want to come hang out with us over on Twitch. Links are all in the description. So yeah, I'm excited.
Pets matter. It's cool. Titles matter. There's all these cool little systems.
It all matters. It all has
what
an
a neat
impact.
way to handle that.
It all has an impact, especially like your roster. Like just in the fact
There's
that
some
the
cool
game,
stuff.
like if you really want to hardcore play the game, like if you want to end game hardcore, best to best, you're playing multiple characters, right?
Roster.
But then you have this roster aspect that's just benefiting all of your characters, and I was like, I like that. It just feels like, do I just want to play one character? Sure, yes, no, maybe so. Oh, I want to play multiple characters. There's like I'm doing this quicker. Like
you have like a shared Paragon level that goes to like 250, and it's unlocking stuff, and
it starts at level 1, but it starts right at the start. You start leveling that Paragon right at the beginning. You don't have to get to cap before then that becomes a system. It's awesome.
Your collections feel kind of like Guild Wars 2, where like there's just these perks for taking part in their systems. Like it all feels really nice. I'm really impressed. The more I do, the more I'm like, okay, I really like that.
Yeah. Is this something that you would like recommend to like our gaming group to be like, hey guys, maybe check this out on PC if you're interested yet? Are you there yet, or you not? Sometimes I
don't know. I'd rather have a feel for like how long it takes to get in. I know that in my gaming group in particular, one of the issues is the amount of time from the person that plays the most to the person that plays the least. So arcade style games, things like Halo, tend to be a better fit, as opposed to something that says like you need a buy-in of 10 or 20 hours. Something like Final Fantasy is totally off limits. It's a 300-hour buy-in. Yeah. But this may be closer to that, as opposed to like Diablo, because I can power rush people in Diablo. Thus, as you call it, kind of sweaty gamers, we get in first, and then people that come in and we rush them
pull
up.
them up.
And so if there's something like that available here where I can rush them up, I can feed them gear or whatever, then it's a lot easier to say, hop in, I'll hold your hand. It'll be easy.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, those are our thoughts. Let us know yours as well. We'll be giving you guys some extra videos this week as we get back into the swing of things. I think Chris does have another trip planned, but I don't know. We don't know. So we'll find out. I have a trip planned in March, so I'm actually going to go somewhere special, and hopefully I'll share some more details after the fact when that concludes. So guys, thanks for being here. Love you faces. We'll see you next time.